Hi, this is former examiner Gary here from Mc IELTS with another edition of silly, mistaken, sometimes crazy or a little stupid IELTS stuff from the internet. One day, a student asked me, "Oh, pick me, please, teacher. Thank you. Teacher, I read on the internet that you must speak the entire 2 minutes on part 2 of the speaking test, or you will get a lower score. Is that true?" No. That's wrong. Actually, the directions for the IELTS speaking test say speak 1 to 2 minutes. Therefore, if you speak over 1 minute, you are meeting the minimum requirement. And that does not necessarily mean that you will get a lower score on your speaking test. However, we need to consider this a little more carefully because there are actually 2 reasons that you could maybe get a lower score on the speaking test if you speak under 2 minutes. Those are A, how exactly did you stop yourself if you spoke under 2 minutes on part 2 speaking? And B, how much language, how long were your answers throughout the other questions in part 1 and part 3 on the test? And both of these reasons, A and B, are marked under fluency and coherence, F and C, on the speaking test. If we look carefully, closely at the band descriptor sheet, the speaking assessment criteria sheet, we can see that under band 6 for F and C, it says, in part, is willing to speak at length. And for band 7, it says, is willing to speak at length without noticeable effort. So the key distinction between 6 and 7 on fluency and coherence is without noticeable effort, and of course is willing to speak at length. Therefore, if you want 7 in fluency and coherence, you can never show the examiner that you're struggling. You can never show him that you had trouble answering a question in any way. That means excessive pausing, that means too many hesitations or awkward hesitations. Therefore, if you want a 7 in fluency and coherence, you cannot show the examiner that you're struggling in any way. You cannot show him noticeable effort with excessive pausing or hesitations or something that will indicate that you can't handle the question. That means that if you're under 2 minutes and you want to stop, then just stop. Just quickly, kind of suddenly, tell the examiner, indicate to the examiner in some way that you are done. All you need to say is, that's all, or I'm done, or I'm finished now. Doesn't matter if it's 1 minute 10 seconds, 1 minute 20 seconds, 1 minute 30 seconds, whatever it is, as long as you're over 1 minute, but you're under 2 minutes, then just indicate to the examiner that you're done. The mistake that students make is to not indicate quickly enough that the student is aware that they're done. And that means that maybe you'll be showing the examiner some noticeable effort because you'll take 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 seconds to realize yourself that you've run out of ideas, and then you will be pausing and showing the examiner that you're struggling, and then maybe you will say, I'm done. Don't do that. If you're done and you know you're out of ideas, then say you're done. And regarding B, the second point, if you stop early the right way in part 2 speaking, that means that in part, perhaps you didn't show some willingness to speak at length, but that's only one part of the test. If over the other parts of the test, part 1 and part 3, you generally showed the examiner a willingness to speak at length, which means you generally gave longer answers, which means in part 1 you were giving most of your answers 3, 4, or 5 sentences, and in part 3 most of your responses were 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences, then you're fine. Then going short on part 2 speaking will not hurt you. So remember, if you're going to go under 2 minutes in part speaking, make sure, A, you inform the examiner quickly that you want to stop and don't show him any type of struggling with your stopping, and B, you give longer answers in other parts of the test, okay? Or long answers, or some willingness to show that you can give some longer answers, okay? Good luck on your IELTS test, and see you next time. So, now you know.